everyone. It's time to dive into some political news. So, that means I had to talk to one of the best political writers in the business, the Advocate Channel's Christopher Wiggins. What's up, Christopher? How are
Hey,
you?
hey, how are ya? I'm
I'm
doing really well. Good to see you.
good, good. Okay. So I heard the Republicans are out here tripping and slipping this week. So let's get right to it. It's been a struggle for Republicans lately with chaos after they kicked out Speaker McCarthy and spent 3 weeks without a leader. And they was running around like chickens with a head cut off. Now they have this guy nobody knows, and we're learning a lot about his anti-LGBTQIA plus record. What have you learned?
Well, Republicans were in disarray for several weeks after, as you said, they kicked out Speaker McCarthy. And they landed on this guy, Mike Johnson, who's a congressman for Louisiana. And basically, he's had like a minor leadership role within the Republican caucus, but generally has just a few years of experience. And most of Washington, D.C. doesn't know him. So it turns out, though, that with attention comes the bright, shiny lights of the media and of various investigative organizations who are making sure that people learn who Mike Johnson is. And so it's come to light through some recordings that were released on CNN that he once said that the Roman Empire fell because of homosexuality. He also tried to bar a queer woman, a mother, from adopting her wife's child, and that kind of flavor of conservative. And so that's what people are discovering about him.
Oh, wow. So he's taking it all the way back to the Roman Empire. That's not true at all. Okay. I really need people to read more. That is actually not true. What's this connection to an anti-LGBTQIA plus hate group now? And I heard this is all according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is the Alliance Defending Freedom, the ADF, and that's a group that is bringing a lot of legal challenges to cases that they're bringing it to the Supreme Court regarding LGBTQ rights. And so the Southern Poverty Law Center does call the ADF a anti-LGBTQ hate group. Mike Johnson used to be a spokesperson and attorney for the organization. And so, as the world turns, so does this little piece of information. And so, we found out that he has been associated with that group. And so, it's just incredible that people who otherwise proclaim to be so pious, which is something that he does, he claims that the Bible will guide him and anyone to understand what his worldview is, that they have peddled in these organizations that are just existing to spew hate. And unfortunately, it's something that he's been connected to.
Christopher, I really, really, really despise when people weaponize the Bible, in that way, because it says so many things, and yet they do all of those things to target one thing, and they just ignore all of these other things that the Bible says. So, conversion therapy. Oh, Lord, I know I'm not even about to like what you're about to tell me. So Johnson also has a history with conversion therapy, which we all know is super harmful. Please tell me about this history that he has with conversion therapy, y'all.
Yeah, so he is connected to a group called Exodus International, which, engaged in that kind of conversion therapy practice. It turns out that the leaders of the organization and most of the people involved have since, it is shut down, and they've since disavowed the practices and apologized for the damage that they did. And it's just, noteworthy that Speaker Johnson's wife has a counseling service that also equates homosexuality, bisexuality, and transgender people with sexual immorality and bestiality. And so, it's just striking that this is one of he is the second in line to the presidency. and he holds such views that are completely antithetical to most of modern society. But that's where we are, and that's where Republicans have decided to bring this Congress.
I think that people forget that the Speaker of the House is next in line if anything happens to the president and the VP. Like, that is our next leader. That is outlined. Like, that's what happens. And, Christopher, I'm very concerned about these bestiality views because, comparing consenting adults saying that they love each other, same sex adults saying they love each other, or queer adults saying they love each other, to like literally having sex with animals is wild.
Yeah,
Like, that is not anybody I would want to step into the presidency, because it shows not only a lack of their own moral code, but to even say that and to be married to someone that believes in that, but also a high lack of intelligence, which we commonly see in the Republican Party when they are trying to get all get a lot of fame or attention on social media. Okay, so this is my last question, Christopher. You have to tell my audience about George Santos. What happened to that gay Republican lawmaker? What happened, Christopher?
yeah. So George Santos, he seems to have more than 9 lives, more lives than a cat does, as far as political lives are concerned. He most recently he pled not guilty to 10 additional charges that were brought against him in federal court. And this week, the fellow Republican congressman from New York moved to have him expelled from Congress. And so there was a floor debate during which no one stood to defend Congressman Santos. He reserved his time until the end when everyone else had spoken, including members of his own party, about how they wished him to be expelled from the body. And then, the evening came around and it was time to vote, and he ended up surviving the vote. And in fact, there were about 30 or so Democrats who also voted not to kick him out of Congress. And in one of the most famous Democrats, Jamie Raskin, the congressman from Maryland, he said that his reasoning for voting against kicking Santos out was because he is a constitutional person, a constitutional lawyer, and he believes in due process. And for that reason, because Santos hasn't been found guilty of anything, he couldn't support kicking him out of the Congress.
Listen, Christopher, thank you so much for keeping us informed. As always, I can't wait to chat with you next week so you can let me know what is going on in the political space, especially with these crazy ass Republicans out here trying to get attention. All right. Thank you so much, Christopher.